thing to me is that I came to Leeds at 15 and I've had an absolutely wonderful time. Wouldn't swap it.
And a fight going off the ball between Hunter and Lee. Looks to me as if it's broken out again. It's broken out again, and now this time...
He's a master. That's what they called the players Norman Hunter admired most. Strange, isn't it? When you think of Norman Hunter, you don't think of mastery in the artistic sense. You think of the nickname, bites your legs. You think of tackles flying in, of opponents wincing, of a defender who made his reputation through sheer physical intimidation. But here's the twist that makes Hunter's story so fascinating. The man known as one of football's hardest enforcers didn't reserve his deepest respect for fellow hardmen. He saved it for artists, for technicians, for the players who could do something he never could, something he was specifically instructed not to even try. Norman Hunter's manager at Leeds United, Don Revie, gave him explicit instructions that defined his entire career. Norman, you win the ball and you give it to those who can play. That single sentence reveals everything about Hunter's role and, more importantly, about his values. He wasn't there to be brilliant. He was there to serve brilliance. And the players he respected most were the ones who justified his sacrifice, the ones who could take the ball he won and turn it into something magical. So who earned Norman Hunter's deepest respect? Not who you'd expect, not the warriors, not the enforcers, but 5 players whose technical skill, intelligence and character represented everything Hunter's role was designed to support. Let me take you through each of them, and you'll understand why this hard man's heroes tell us more about football's soul than any list of tough guys ever could. The player Hunter called the strongest he ever shared a shirt with. When asked directly who that was, Hunter didn't hesitate. Johnny Giles. The answer came immediately, and the praise that followed was extraordinary. A fantastic player, one of the most complete players I have ever seen on a football pitch. Technique of the highest level and a fantastic character. A true leader and an exemplary professional. Think about those words for a moment. Hunter didn't say Giles was good. He didn't say he was talented. He said he was one of the most complete players Hunter had ever seen. This is a man who played for Leeds United during their greatest era, who faced the best players in England and Europe week after week, and he's saying Giles was at the absolute pinnacle. The technical edge Giles possessed, his intelligence on the ball, his ability to control a game from midfield, these were the qualities that defined greatness in Hunter's eyes. But there's more context here. Hunter's instructions from Revie were to win it and give it to Johnny Giles or Billy Bremner. Notice that pairing. Those 2 men were the creative brain of Leeds United. Hunter's entire game was built around serving them. When he won the ball, his job was done. What happened next was up to Giles and Bremner, and in Hunter's estimation, while both were brilliant, Giles held a slight technical edge. He was the most complete, the one Hunter would choose if forced to pick just one teammate as the strongest. Now, speaking of Billy Bremner, he's the second name on our list. While Giles got the most complete designation, Bremner was something else entirely. He was the heartbeat, the captain, the never-say-die spirit that drove Leeds United forward even when logic said they were beaten. Hunter respected Bremner for different reasons than he respected Giles, but the respect was just as deep. Bremner was the on-field general, the man who embodied everything Don Revie wanted his team to be. He was small in stature, but enormous in presence. He was the player who would take the ball from Hunter and immediately start dictating the game's rhythm. More than that, he was the leader who made everyone around him believe. In an era defined by superstition and ritual, Bremner was the one who controlled those rituals. He was the one who tossed the ball to the crowd before kickoff, the one who set the tone, the one who simply would not accept defeat. Hunter's role was tactically subservient to Bremner's. That's not a criticism. That's the structure of a great team. Hunter won the ball. Bremner and Giles decided what to do with it, and Hunter knew that Bremner's leadership, his character, his relentless attitude, these were the qualities that elevated Leeds from a good team to a great one. Technical skill matters, yes, but so does heart. Bremner had both in abundance. The third teammate Hunter respected profoundly was Jack Charlton. This relationship is fascinating because it wasn't built on equality. It was built on mentorship. Hunter openly called Charlton his principal early influence. When Hunter was young, breaking into the Leeds team, Charlton was already established. And Charlton didn't treat Hunter gently. As Hunter recalled, Big Jack used to boss us around. It was do this, do that, stand there, even trap the ball, Norman. He was like a traffic warden. Imagine being told by your defensive partner to trap the ball. That's basic stuff. But Hunter wasn't insulted. He learned. He watched Charlton, studied his positioning, absorbed his knowledge of how to read danger before it arrived. Their partnership lasted at least 10 years. 10 years of Hunter playing off Charlton, cleaning up after him, anticipating his movements. A teammate later described it as a terrific partnership, noting that Hunter had a great knowledge of where to be as a defender. He could see danger before it came near him. That awareness was forged in those early years under Charlton's demanding tutelage. There's a telling anecdote about their relationship's evolution. Hunter remembered a match against West Ham where he finally had a right go back at Charlton, telling him off in front of the cop. It was Hunter's coming-of-age moment, the student asserting himself against the master. But here's what matters. Hunter concluded the story by saying Charlton wasn't one to hold grudges. That speaks to Charlton's character, to the respect Hunter maintained for him, despite the occasionally harsh treatment. Charlton shaped Hunter's career, and Hunter never forgot it. Now let me ask you something. If you were a world-class defender, who would you want to face? Which opponent would truly test you? Would reveal whether you were genuinely elite or just very good? Hunter had an instant answer to this question, just as quick as his answer about Giles. When asked who his strongest opponent was, he replied, Jimmy Greaves, without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt, that phrase carries weight. It means there was no debate in Hunter's mind. Greaves was the ultimate challenge, the opponent who rendered Hunter's entire skill set almost useless. And Hunter explained exactly why with one of football's most famous quotes. You could cancel him out for 89 minutes and 59 seconds. Then you'd get distracted for a second, and the ball was in the back of the net. That's genius described in a single sentence. Greaves didn't need to dominate a game. He didn't need to be involved in every attack. He just needed one moment, 1 second of defensive lapse, and it was over. Hunter, who built his reputation on intimidation, found that intimidation completely ineffective against Greaves. Hunter even admitted that Reevy's tactics acknowledged this. Reevy told his players to ignore Greaves outside the penalty area, believing he wasn't the bravest and didn't like tackles flying in. But here's the brutal truth Hunter confessed. Having said that, he scored against me almost every time we played, did Jimmy? Almost every time. Hunter knew Greaves disliked the physical side of football. He knew Greaves could be unsettled by hard challenges, and yet Greaves still scored. The lethal positioning, the predatory instinct, the pure finishing ability, these qualities overrode everything Hunter tried. That's why Hunter respected him so deeply. Greaves proved that genius beats brutality every single time. The fifth player on our list is Peter Osgood. This choice is particularly revealing because of how Hunter described their relationship. He called it a tremendous rivalry. Their battles in the 1970 FA Cup final were notorious. They were physical, confrontational, personal. Hunter shared a specific story from a league match where Leeds won 5-2. Osgood scored to put Chelsea up 2-1, went to the crowd, came back to Hunter and jeered, "Where were you for that goal, Norman?" Later, after Leeds equalised, Hunter looked for Osgood, ran over and growled, "Now we've got a game," and pulled his sideburns. These were square-ups, as Hunter called them, physical confrontations between two proud warriors who refused to back down. But here's what separates Osgood from other rivals. Hunter concluded the story by saying, "We had a few square-ups like that in those days, but we laugh about it now. We laugh about it now. That's reconciliation. That's mutual respect that survived the heat of competition and emerged stronger on the other side." Compare this to Hunter's relationship with Francis Lee. Hunter and Lee also had confrontations, including a famous punch-up, but decades later, Hunter still despised Lee. In his autobiography, he declined to let bygones be bygones. He called Lee and Rodney Marsh brilliant at diving, saying they'd run straight at you, knock the ball past you, and then go down. That's contempt. That's a lack of respect that time never healed. So what's the difference? Why does Hunter laugh with Osgood but maintain disdain for Lee? Answer is character. Hunter respected opponents who came back at you, who weren't afraid, played the game with integrity even when it got physical. Osgood was that kind of player. Hunter called him some player before his leg break, not bad afterward. That's high praise wrapped in understatement. Osgood was a warrior who earned respect through courage and skill. Lee, in Hunter's view, was something else entirely. Now, before we conclude, there's something else worth exploring. Hunter faced other legendary forwards during what he called a brilliant era for forward play. He grouped players into pairs, noting that most hunted in pairs: Denis Law and George Best. These Manchester United legends represented the ultimate rivalry, the matches that defined an entire era of English football. The rivalry with Denis Law was particularly intense. It was literally labelled Law versus Hunter, two men who seemed destined to clash every time Leeds met Manchester United. But it was George Best who perhaps best illustrates the respect Hunter had for pure genius. Best was so special, so dangerous, that he actually broke his own routine when facing Leeds. Best famously eschewed shin pads. He hated wearing them. But when Manchester United visited Elland Road, Best would break from his routine and wear them specifically because of Norman Hunter. Think about what that means. Best, one of the most naturally gifted players in football history, felt he needed extra protection against Hunter. That's a backhanded compliment to Hunter's prowess. Yes, but it's also a sign of mutual respect. Best knew Hunter would come hard. Hunter knew Best could humiliate any defender in England. They respected each other's abilities, even as they prepared for battle. Hunter later acknowledged that Best and Law were the two best players going forward in the 1960s. That's significant recognition from a man who faced them repeatedly in some of football's most heated encounters. He could have dismissed them, could have focused only on the physical battles they had. Instead, he recognised their brilliance. He understood that his job against players like Best and Law wasn't to stop them completely, that was impossible, but to limit their impact as much as humanly possible. This broader context helps us understand Hunter's philosophy even better. He didn't just respect his teammates. He didn't just admire opponents who beat him. He recognised greatness wherever he found it, even in the shirts of fierce rivals. Leeds and Manchester United had one of football's most bitter rivalries during this era. The matches were brutal, physical, sometimes ugly. Yet, through all of that, Hunter maintained his ability to separate personal feelings from professional respect. He could battle Best and Law for 90 minutes and still acknowledge they were exceptional talents. Before I wrap this up, I want you to think about what we've learned here. Norman Hunter's nickname was Yer Legs. His reputation was as an enforcer, a hard man, one of football's most feared defenders. Yet, the 5 players he respected most tell a completely different story. Johnny Giles for his complete technical mastery, Jimmy Greaves for his unstoppable genius, Billy Bremner for his leadership and character, Jack Charlton for his mentorship and defensive intelligence, Peter Osgood for his warrior spirit and mutual respect. Not one of these players earned Hunter's respect through intimidation. Not one was chosen because they were harder or tougher than anyone else. Giles was a technical playmaker. Greaves was a finesse forward who didn't even like physical challenges. Bremner was 5'5". Charlton was a mentor, not a rival. Osgood was simply brave enough to come back at Hunter and skilled enough to make it count. This is the paradox of Norman Hunter. The man remembered for biting legs actually valued artistry, professionalism, and integrity above everything else. His job was to win the ball and give it to those who could play. His heroes were the ones who justified that sacrifice, the ones who took his hard work and transformed it into something beautiful. Let me leave you with this. These 5 players represent Hunter's personal Hall of Fame. Johnny Giles, the most complete. Jimmy Greaves, the strongest opponent. Billy Bremner, the heartbeat. Jack Charlton, the mentor. Peter Osgood, the warrior who became a friend. Each one earned their place not through toughness, but through qualities Hunter genuinely admired: technical skill, intelligence, character, professionalism, integrity. Norman Hunter is gone now, but his legacy lives on, not just in the tackles and the nickname, but in the deeper truth his choices reveal. Football isn't just about who hits hardest. It's about who plays with skill and honour. It's about who can take the ball and make magic happen. Hunter knew that better than anyone because his entire career was built around serving that magic. He was the master of knowing his role, and the players he called masters were the ones who made his role worthwhile. Which of these 5 would you most want to see play today? Would you choose Giles's complete game, Greaves's deadly finishing, Bremner's leadership, Charlton's defensive intelligence, or Osgood's warrior spirit? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this look at one of football's most misunderstood hard men, make sure to subscribe. We'll keep diving deep into the stories that reveal football's true soul, the tales that show us these legendary players were far more complex and fascinating than their reputation suggests. Thanks for watching.